Okay, so this is part 2 of the owl pellet lab. So this is what one pellet looks like. This is the pellet that I did. And then this was the pellet that, in the aftermath here, that Mr. Buchak did. So Mr. Buchak's gonna take you through some bones and what we observed, and then we're gonna compare them to this sheet that we have in Schoology that's gonna make sure that we draw the right inference.
All right, so we'll start with Mr. Underwood's pieces over here. So you'll notice he separated his out into what looks to be some sort of leg or arm bones in 2 different piles. This looks to possibly be a hip, and I'll show you why in a second. I know that from being from looking at the sheet he should have just showed you. Over here we have 2 different skulls, and we'll talk about how we know what kind of organism we have. And these are what are called mandibles, or your jaws. So he's got those separated out as well, so you get to see all the pieces. Over here with mine, I separated mine out very similarly. I have a bunch of leg and arm bones here. Over here I have hips again. Once again, I'll show you how I knew that. I had 3 different skulls in mine, 4 different skulls. So I had 3 of the same and then 1 different one, and then I had some random mandibles that may or may not match to these. The one thing that I found that Mr. Underwood didn't find are these cool little things. I don't know if you can see them really well, but these are actually individual vertebrae, and we can actually look at those too. So if you don't remember what vertebrae is, it's your backbone, right? So what we're going to do is kind of try to compare some of these 2 here to find out what we have, and we just clicked out of it, so I got to go back. Sorry, guys. Maybe. Yay. So one of the big things is, and these are the very, very distinguishable ones, are these bones right here. I'll put it right in my hand so you guys can see it. But this is a hip bone, and the reason we know this is a hip bone is if we compare that to over here, you'll notice that elongated bone right here, and then you have that opening piece. Now the cool part about this is, based on what it looks like, I can bring this right over here, hopefully you guys can see it, but that looks an awful lot like that right there. You gotta go down a little bit, right there. So those 2 match up. So that would tell me, if I scroll up, that I probably have a mouse. All right, and judging from the rest of my pile, if you take a look at this, I also have a couple skulls here. And one of the cool things about the mouse is the mouse has elongated little teeth on the end. So you'll see those little yellowish orange teeth. So we want to see if that matches up. So when we come over here, hey, look at that. That kind of looks just like what we just pulled out. So I can guess that I at least have 1 mouse here. All right, but the one that doesn't fit, and this is pretty interesting, is this little guy. And I say little guy because it's much smaller. So that can't be a mouse, because if you compare these 2, it doesn't have the same set of teeth, nor would the bottom mandible mix up. And you'll notice I also found something very interesting when I was looking through here. I had different sized hips. So this is actually a hip with a small hole in it. Very, very small. It's hard to see. This was another hip that got broken. But you can see they're not the same size as the mouse. So if I check this out, and this was kind of cool to find out, this is either going to be a shrew or a mole. And I gotta be honest with you, I think it's more like a shrew, and that led me to believe it because I have, switch pieces here, one of these, which is one of its, if I can flip it over, one of its jawbones, or its mandibles. So basically what we're doing, guys, is we're just taking all of our information, separating things out, and just comparing pictures to pictures, and that allows us to use our good observation skills, our background knowledge. Mr. Underwood, before you guys were shooting this video, was talking about his extensive understanding of 2 different types of owls. So his background knowledge helps us understand what we should be looking for, and we use that background knowledge along with our keen sense of, our 5 senses, and just comparing them to here along with other tools that we may have used.